Again, thank you all for joining us today for our 30 by 30 virtual Expo series. Side note, I think this is the favorite thing I've ever done, getting to talk to partners in this intimate space. A few pieces of housekeeping before we get started. This meeting is being recorded. And if you have questions today, we really want you to submit them through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We're reserving the chat for technical issues. You can chat with each other there, but I'm going to be monitoring and the panelists the Q&A for any questions. So please do use that. So good morning. My name is Jennifer Norris. I'm the Deputy Secretary for Biodiversity and Habitat at the California Natural Resources Agency. I lead the state's 30 by 30 initiative, and I am just so excited to be part of the 30 by 30 partnership with all of you. For those of you joining us for the first time, 30 by 30 is an international movement focused on conserving 30% of nature, lands and waters, oceans by the year 2030. Here in California, we've committed to this goal to conserve 30% of our lands and coastal waters by 2030. We've released a Pathways to 30 by 30 strategy, which contains a lot of information about what it means to be a 30 by 30 conservation area, how we plan to achieve this goal, and how important every habitat throughout California is for making this successful. Today's webinar is not going to do a deep dive on 30 by 30. If you want more information, I encourage you to check out the document or watch the plenaries from our 30 by 30 partnership kickoff event last month. Links to both are being added in the chat now. So the 30 by 30 partnership is really a movement focused on reaching the 30 by 30 goal by working together, learning from each other, and supporting each other. On September 28th, we hosted an event to kick off the 30 by 30 partnership at the California Natural Resources Agency. It was amazing. The event included a community expo, which was a space for folks to make connections with over 20 agency partners, funders, and technical assistance providers to hear about how they can use resources to achieve 30 by 30. We really recognize that we're going to achieve 30 by 30 through locally driven efforts. So, as I said, the event was amazing. It was also filled to capacity, and we knew that not everyone was able to join us in person for various reasons. So we're hosting this virtual Expo series in an attempt to bring that experience to everyone throughout the state. We're here to just keep building the momentum and connection that we made that day, and are just, like I said, really excited to have you here. So let's turn it over to our panelists. I'm excited to be joined by my friends and colleagues, Rory Skay from the Wildlife Conservation Board, and I did that wrong, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, I'm so sorry, and Shannon Lucas from the Wildlife Conservation Board. Shannon's gonna go first, which is why I've got it all twisted in my brain. Both of these folks are just leaders in the field. They're gonna tell you about their programs and opportunities for you to engage with them on helping us achieve 30 by 30. So with that, I will turn it over to Shannon from WCB.
Thank you, Jen. Happy to be here. Hi, I'm Shannon Lucas. I am a Restoration and Development Supervisor at the Wildlife Conservation Board, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of how we're helping to help implement the 30 by 30 initiative. Let me share my screen here real quick. Hopefully this will work.
Oh, you had it and it went away. It looked great.
Oh, how's that?
There you go. There you
go. Okay, great. Thank you. So I just want to first highlight the fact that this year the WCB is celebrating 75 years of doing conservation and restoration and public access in California. So we're pretty excited about that. We implement about 15 different programs statewide, ranging from anything from riparian habitat restoration, just to public access, forest conservation, inland wetlands, and one of our newest programs is our new Desert Conservancy program, which we're very excited about. WCB's primary priorities are protecting biodiversity, habitat connectivity, climate resilience, stream flow enhancement, and wildlife-oriented recreation opportunities. And so in order to support 30 by 30, we're focusing on strategic land acquisitions, voluntary conservation easements, and of course, habitat restoration. I'll just quickly go over our, I want to say, new general grant guidelines, new as in this year, but this past spring we introduced that. What we have is a continuously open application process. So no more deadlines that you can submit at any time. And we have a pre-application and a full application. And part of this was to help make things a little bit easier for people. Pre-application doesn't take a lot of work to fill out, and it can just initiate the consultation process with staff to help develop projects. And we don't expect applicants to know which of our 15 programs they want to submit to. They just submit a pre-application and we will decide if we're going to fund it, which funding source or program is the most appropriate. So we're trying to cut the green tape in our own way by making things as easy as possible to get through the process to get funded. One other thing for land acquisitions, there used to be sort of a requirement that there was a conceptual area protection plan or land acquisition evaluation, which was another step in the process, and we have since removed that requirement, again in an effort to sort of cut the green tape and move things through more quickly. We currently have about $1 billion in funding through a combination of our remaining bond funding from Proposition 1 and 68 and some other various past bonds, as well as we got several hundred million in last fiscal year and then a lot more this fiscal year. So we have a lot available for all of our programs, and we're really excited to get some good projects out there, some big bang for your buck. This is a tremendous opportunity and time for all this money. So we look forward to getting pre-applications and working with you all to generate some really good projects for California.
Awesome. That's a lot of money. That's exciting. That's going to get us down the road to 30 by 30. Way to go. We'll let people ask questions in a bit. Let's turn it over to Rory Skay, who's from the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. And I knew that. Hey, there you are.
Hi,
Tell us about
Jen.
you. Hey, and before you start, I'm gonna interrupt you and just say, for those people that don't even know what a conservancy is, will you tell us that as well? Help us out.
Indeed. So I'm Rory Skay, I'm the Chief Deputy Director of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, which has been a state agency for over 42 years. And the state conservancies, there are, I think, 7 of us, I keep losing track, and were formed by the state legislature at various times to be more locally based conservation organizations that could actually respond quickly and nimbly to the needs of the areas that they encompass. There's the State Coastal Conservancy, the Tahoe Conservancy, Sierra Nevada Conservancy, Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy, Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, San Diego River Conservancy, and I don't know if I've forgotten anybody, but
San Joaquin.
And San Joaquin River Conservancy and the Baldwin Hills Conservancy.
That's right. So there's way more than 7. I think there are 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. And we all get together and we share notes, and we're partners in the state. So the 30 by 30 idea is it just sort of encompasses everything that the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy has been striving for since its inception. Our mission is to create, preserve, protect an interlinking system of open space, wildlife habitat, urban and natural parks and trails throughout the Southern California area, mainly the Los Angeles area and portions of Ventura County. We have some very notable projects that I think have already contributed to 30 by 30. They're not new, but they're ones that we have in our past, like 5,000 acres of the former Amundsen Ranch, now called the Upper Las Virgenes Canyon Open Space Preserve, right on the border of Ventura County and City of Los Angeles. Huge property and fabulous. King Gillette Ranch, which is a historic site in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains. It's now the visitor center for the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. And that also to say that what we do is very much based on partnerships. It's how we've made things happen over the years. A big key, in fact, a real good example of that is the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Bridge over the 101 freeway in Agoura Hills. And that really is the culmination of probably 40 years of planning by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. And then it's now actually under construction. It's a partnership with Caltrans, National Wildlife Federation, National Park Service, and of course, fantastic funding from the Wildlife Conservation Board, which I will note has funded a number of important acquisitions that we've made over the years, including the Upper Las Virgenes property. So that planning effort, I think, has that we've been engaged in from the get-go, I think has also informed local governments and NGOs in our area to be assisting in trying to acquire property and maintain trail connections, maintain wildlife habitat linkages, including through the very dense Hollywood Hills. Our staff worked a number of years ago to identify where animals could go, even though they're, it's pretty dense. And indeed, we think that's how P22, the Griffith Park mountain lion, made his way from the Santa Monica Mountains across 2 freeways through these neighborhoods at night and found his way into Griffith Park, where he reigns supreme at this time. We have a number of grant programs. We also have an open-ended application process. Our materials are on our website. There's grant information. So we have Prop 1, Prop 68. We have some general fund that has been appropriated to us. And we do encourage folks to go to essentially inquire, go to the info@smmc.ca.gov, and I or one of my staff will call you and talk about what your project is and see if it fits and how to proceed from there. And I think, so actually, I will say we have actually preserved or caused to be preserved over 80,000 acres in our zone, which is Santa Monica Mountains, Simi Hills, San Gabriel Hills, Santa Susana's, and the Upper Los Angeles River tributary plan, which is very important.
That's awesome. I'll just say what you said at the top kind of warmed my heart, in that I think Santa Monica Mountains was the first to be like, we'll put 30 by 30 on everything we're doing. And I was like, yay. And, it made me think that what I saw at the beginning was like 30 by 30 is not something new, right? It's a way to bring us all together into one sort of collective space where we can feel and celebrate each other's accomplishments, but also, accelerate the good work that's already underway. We wouldn't be at 24% if it weren't for the Wildlife Conservation Board and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, and let's just keep it up, right? Indeed. So let's bring Shannon back on. I want to talk to both of you, but I'm thinking, just before we get into the Q&A, I'm interested to know, like, how does it really happen? And maybe, Rory, this is for you. Like you said, we have partners. So are you regularly engaged with folks locally that are interested in conservation and sort of doing the back and forth, or do people cold come to you and say, I want to protect this space, how do we get it done? And then I want to acknowledge what you said also, which is that a lot of the funding is pulled from multiple sources, right? It might be Coastal Conservancy, WCB, and you, right? So how does that come together? How does the magic happen? Can you paint like a picture? Okay.
Yeah, we get a lot of cold calls. In fact, a lot of our land acquisition has been through donations. People will call up and say, I've got a parcel I can't do anything with. Are you willing to take it? Okay. And then the ongoing discussions with LA County, LA City, all the other cities in the area, the NGOs, National Park Service, state parks. We're sort of an ongoing communication stream of what are the priorities, what opportunities are there. And I will mention that our board we have a 10-member board and a 26-member advisory committee that meets at the same time as the board. And that advisory committee encompasses almost every incorporated city plus state and local other representatives. So we get, at least monthly, we get a good snapshot of what people are thinking and what priorities they're looking at.
Do you want to add anything to that, Shannon, to how the magic happens?
I mean, we definitely get a lot of cold calls about projects all the time, and we're happy to talk. But we're hoping to expand our outreach in the next year. We're going to be hiring an information officer that's really going to help us expand the types of partners that we would like to work with. Especially with tribes and more climate vulnerable communities, things like that. Right. So that's something.
Yeah, I think that's a goal of all of us, right? Is we don't just want to touch the people that already know how the process works, but try to bring more folks into the fold. So I'm looking at questions in the Q&A. One is about capacity, and I know this is real for WCB. I don't know if it's as true for you, Rory, but are you both needing to add folks? Are you adding folks to make sure you can get this tons of money out the door? Tell us.
We're very fortunate that in the recent budget, we got 7 new positions. One of them is the information officer that I mentioned, but also to help staff, just to help manage grants and develop projects. So it'll help. It's probably still not enough, but it's definitely a great help.
And I did hear John Donnelly say that your board meetings might go all day so you can process more things, right? Which I think is a good idea, because people are concerned that they can't get on your agenda for a year. You know, they might lose an opportunity. So
yeah, absolutely.
Might need to happen. I'll bring Len lunch. What about you, Rory? Are you needing capacity?
Oh, always, but we have six people, 6 staff people, and we haven't ventured to try to get more positions in quite a while. It's never been looked on with favor by Department of Finance, but we do seem to be able to get along very well, and partly because we have all those partnerships, including with.
You've been very effective. It probably cuts against your ability to get more people, as you keep doing it really well. So, but I'm glad to know you're moving forward with stuff. Somebody's just asking, what kinds of projects are competitive? Particularly, this is for WCB.
Well, I think right now it's what I mentioned in terms of our priorities, which are, protecting biodiversity, habitat connectivity, promoting climate resilience. We have a lot of stream flow enhancement money. But what makes it competitive? I mean, obviously local support, partnerships, if they're sensitive for listed species, the durability of the project is really important. The longer term the benefits will last, obviously, the better. And although, big is great, we don't necessarily prefer big projects over small ones. If the value of the small ones is critical, then, there's no small or there's no minimum or maximum range to our projects. If it's critically important to biodiversity, habitat, species, it's competitive.
And how do you establish that? How do you determine, like, what criteria, what's the process you use to figure that out? I mean, do you go to existing plans? Do you look at CA Nature? I sure hope you do.
So we ask applicants in our full application, we ask applicants to sort of describe how they're meeting goals of, for example, 30 by 30 or the State Wildlife Action Plan. That we ask them to look at California Nature, CDFW's ACE and BIOS, tell us the whole picture, the California Essential Habitat Connectivity, how does this particular project fit into all the state's current priorities and goals, and along with other surveys and like species information about the site.
Great. I'm looking at another question, which I know we're grappling with and is really important, is how to include Indigenous access to resources as part of easements, as well as inclusion of traditional knowledge in resource management. So I will say more broadly, we've all been having this conversation, I think, about how to do this, not just the folks on this screen, but within CNRA, we're thinking about all the different departments, and State Parks is looking at opportunities to give access. How is this figuring into your programs? Maybe Rory, do you have examples of that happening with you, or are you thinking about it?
Yes, and in fact, I think we've always been very sensitive and open to anytime a tribal group wanted to come and collect, say, tules for ceremonies or white sage. It's just come on in. No, there's no permit requirement. Just do it. And even more recently, obviously, we have a tribal engagement consultation policy, and have been really more actively looking at how to interact with various tribes in our area. We are very fortunate because our Conservancy Board Vice Chair is a tribal president, and that's been very, very helpful because he's been able to give us some good ideas and to assist on projects.
Great.
And I'll just say, we've received a number of restoration projects recently that are actively seeking and integrating traditional ecological knowledge in their restoration development and planning with the local tribes. And we're definitely encouraging, like one of the questions we ask people when we're first talking about a project is, have you talked to the local tribe, and are they involved? Because I feel like, as we all know, the earlier that engagement happens, the better. And I think you're right. There's just so much more of an awareness now that I think it's permeating everything that we do.
And I will say, for general information for those on the webinar who don't know this, that the California Natural Resources Agency, it's $100 million set aside just for tribal nature-based solutions in general, which would include 30 by 30, 70 million this year, and we expect another 30 next year. And the solicitation for that is in process now. Not the solicitation, but the guidelines for how that money will be dispersed are being drafted now. But it's definitely targeted toward these sorts of co-management opportunities, land return if possible, but absolutely cultural easements and other sorts of active management. So I'm glad somebody raised that. I'm going to answer a question in the chat because this is an ongoing thing that I'm trying to clarify. So someone said, aside from acquisition and restoration, what other types of projects would qualify for 30 by 30 funding? Could trail access and or restoration maintenance projects contribute to 30 by 30 goals? So that's sort of two questions in one. The first question is, there's technically no 30 by 30 funding. As much as I wish I had a checkbook, I do not. We opted instead to put money where it's already shown to be most effective, right? So all the programs that exist that already know how to do conservation, like the two here in this webinar, are where the funds for achieving our 30 by 30 are. So they're distributed through our conservancies, Wildlife Conservation Board, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Department of Conservation. So that's what this series is to highlight where all that money is and how it can be accessed. But I would say that, access is an important part of our objectives. And when, and I think I'm speaking for you two now, trails are absolutely parts of what you will fund. And then, as long as it's done in a sensitive way that protects biodiversity, that property then would still help us achieve our goals. Does that sound right to both of you?
Yeah, we look at, in terms of, 30 by 30 does talk about access for all elements. And we've historically funded wildlife-oriented recreation projects, including trails, fishing piers, boat launches, duck hunting blinds, nature centers. I mean, that's all contributing, and we definitely fund those types of projects all the time.
Yeah. Rory, you want to add anything?
Indeed. I mean, obviously, stewardship and maintenance has always been sort of a real need because bond funds won't take
Right.
care of that. So having the influx of general funds has been very helpful. But that is something that I think all the conservancies have been looking for. Is there a way to get a more stable funding stream for actually maintaining properties that have been acquired over the years?
Great. Yeah. I'm going to do one more. The WCB got funding for two new programs, the Cascades and High Sierra Upper Watersheds Program and Southern California Watershed Program. Can you explain what these are and what kinds of projects the WCB looking for, and are you considering land back? So all the above in that.
Well, I don't deal with acquisition, so I don't know what land back is.
Well,
I apologize.
Are you returning land to tribes, which I know that that's not a WCB specific, but projects probably come to you and that's the ultimate intention, right, of the person who's building the project, because that's happened, right?
Yeah, and we now have the ability to, grant funding to drive tribes as well.
Okay, great.
Last year, so definitely. As far as the Sierra Upper Watersheds and Southern California Watersheds Program, I think we're looking for anything that supports our priorities, really. I mean, climate resilience, especially, land acquisition, connectivity, all of those things that we're always looking for in all of our projects. But as I mentioned before, the nice thing is we don't necessarily expect people to pick a program. Just submit a pre-application and then we'll figure out which program or funding source is the most appropriate. So even though your project may be located in a Southern California watershed, it might be more appropriate for our stream flow funding or whatever. So we don't expect applicants to know the differences between all the funding source requirements and things like that.
Which I think is really helpful, right? Because sorting through all those 15 programs or whatever it is, I don't actually know how they all, like, where does one end and another one start? So I like that. And I know that you have money in different programs at different times, so you can probably use those funds
Well,
more creatively, right?
Yeah, the nice thing about the general fund is we do have some flexibility with where we can maybe use some of those funds. We're not quite as tied down as we were with bond funding.
Great. Well, Rory, I know I'm pretty excited about the Liberty Canyon Wildlife Crossing. What's your next crossing? What are you working on next? What's your next big thing?
Well, our next big thing is to continue to support 30 by 30 all over.
I'll pay you
all
later
over
for
our
saying
town.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's such a great organizing principle. I think it's genius to have that. So we don't have any crossings per se in mind, except we are supporting projects that will enhance crossings on the 118 freeway at Rocky Peak, farther up the 5 freeway at Weldon Canyon. There's one idea to do a crossing over the 101 farther west of Liberty at the Caneo Grade. That would be a longer term project. So in any event, we're moving forward.
I think those are just so exciting, and they get people really excited. So, well, thanks to both of you. The last question was how to reach both of you. So I think we'll put up our slide with just to make sure everyone has information on how to reach WCB and SMMC. I really appreciate both of you getting on with us today. I think we actually answered all the questions in the chat, but I will let folks know that we're gathering some of the frequently asked questions that aren't necessarily specific to today's webinar, but more generally, and working on establishing something on our website where you can sort of go back and reference, what is a conservation area and how does this really work? So in any case, this video will be posted on californianature.ca.gov in a couple days. We really hope you'll join us again for one of our upcoming webinars. We have several more weeks of these. So please come again, and feel free to visit our website and stay up to date on all of our happenings. We'll certainly have many more engagement opportunities coming forward. And thank you again, Rory and Shannon, for your time. I'm so grateful. This was really fun, and have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.